government that teaches its citizens to worship it instead of their God. But we have before us now the greatest opportunity for redemption we may ever know in our lifetime. We have the antidote. Pastors, we call upon you to urge parents to home educate, cultivate in children a yearning for truth, beauty, goodness, and the moral law, as the Bible prescribes. Parents, encourage your child's innate curiosity and individual talents. No more Common Core. Teach them civics, the immeasurable value of our nation, conceived by God, the author of our freedom, and the author of life itself. May God bless America.
Hello, everyone. You know me as which has empowered companies like MyPillow to help our nation win this invisible war. Now I wrote something off the cuff, if I can read this. Okay. God gave us grace on November 8, 2016 to change the course we were on. God had been taken out of our schools and lives. A nation had turned its back on God. Wounds, etc. Personally, my parents divorced when I was 7 years old, back when divorces weren't common. And I was put into a new school, and I was the only kid from a broken family. Right away, the devil's lies started. I felt like I was different and didn't fit in, that I wasn't good enough. I felt like, by the time high school started, I had turned to alcohol and cocaine soon after. And this masked pain, gave me false courage and confidence. I was a functioning addict, and I raised a family and believed that I was doing a good job, juggling addiction and family for 20 years. I remember, though, after the bars would close, we'd go over to a friend's house maybe, and we'd be over there doing drugs, and I'd sometimes start telling them about God and the Bible and end times that I had read about when I was in jail, which was quite a bit of time. And you see, I had had great seeds of faith planted when I was a kid, but I had fallen away from God. Anyway, my friends would quit that night and find Jesus, and I'd say, what's the matter? What did I say? I'm losing friends. But by the early 2000s, things began to unravel. I remember my daughter saying to me in April of 2007, "Dad, we're a very dysfunctional family." My shame came out in anger, and I said, "Don't you ever say that again." Just days later, that dysfunction manifested into a divorce and a lost home. Overwhelming shame and my worst fears of failure engulfed me. By February 2008, I was staying at one of my drug dealer's apartments in Minneapolis, and I had been awake for almost 2 weeks high on crack cocaine. I came out of the bedroom, and my 3 drug dealers were standing there, and they said, "We're cutting you off. You've been up for 14 days. I said, "What is this, an intervention?" They said, "Mike, you call it whatever you want." Well, one of them left, and one of them went down to the streets to get the word out, not to sell me anything. And finally, the last guy fell asleep, and right as about the time I was carpet farming for crack, and I headed down to the streets to buy more, and nobody would sell to me. I was out there for an hour trying to buy crack in the middle of the night. At 2:30 in the morning, I came back upstairs, and my dealer was waiting up for me. And he said, "How'd that work out for you?" He said, "Man, you've been telling us for years that this MyPillow thing is just a platform for God, and you're going to quit someday and come back and help us out of this addiction world we're living in." Well, here's 2 of them work for me now, and they're born-again Christians, by the way. And I quit all my addictions on January 16th, 2009. But it was a little different. I prayed to God, if He removed the desire, that I would do whatever He had planned for me. That platform I had told my dealers about and my friends that someday I'm going to have this great platform, this calling, which we all have a calling. But I knew if I waited one more day, I was going to miss my calling. And I woke up the next morning and the desires were gone and I had been miraculously set free. But with a clear mind, for the first time in decades, I looked around me and I said to myself, what did I miss? What is going on in our country and in the world? My friends had lost their houses, some their careers. There was a president giving money to an evil nation. Marriage was changing to no longer being between a man and a woman. There was racial division, and they were killing the unborn and trying even to kill babies right after they were born. And God had been taken out of our schools and replaced in our colleges with false gods or no God. And I guess this had taken decades to get to that point, but it was a shock to me because I had been in my own little world of addiction. I had always believed in God using mathematics. Like my book title says, what are the odds from crack addict to CEO? In your own lives, when you have a 1 in a million or a 1 in a billion happen or something that's outright impossible, when do you say to yourself, it has to be a miracle? Well, for me, impossible divine appointments started happening around the year 2016. And here I was invited to the National Prayer Breakfast here in D.C., and I was randomly picked out of 12 people to pray with Dr. Ben Carson at the time he was still running for president. And then just a few months later, in August of 2016, I had Donald Trump reached out to me for a private meeting with him, and here I'm meeting with the guy that would become the president God had picked for such a time as this. And so for me, and even my friends are going, these things are impossible if it wouldn't be for God. Here's this ex-crack addict all of a sudden sitting in the White House and going, Jesus has to be real because this is impossible. And so, but I was very incorrigible, and it took me till, you ready for this? February 18, 2017, when I did a full surrender to Jesus Christ. When I surrendered that day, I repented to God. And by repenting, for the first time ever, I was able to forgive myself and also free myself from the devil's lies. I had returned to God. In Jeremiah 29, 11 to 14, it says, tell the people if they return to me, I will give back what they lost. Well, I know this firsthand that it's true. I will tell you, it's like going down a highway the wrong way and you exit and you cross over the overpass to get back in the right direction. But the good news is, I guarantee you it's a shorter trip back. In Joel 12, God tells his people, if they return to me, not only will he fix what's wrong, but he will reverse it. We as a nation and world need to repent today, as it will give God a runway to land and bring us back to him. This will start the greatest revival in history. God bless each and every one of you.
Isn't it